So how do you actually get a security clearance? Now, this is a question that I commonly would get, and to be honest, there's no right or wrong answer here. Everyone takes a different route, but in general, there's really three main routes that you would take to get a clearance. The first one is join the military. Military will get you a clearance, and you could be working on IT infrastructure, you could be working on radios, you could be working on logistics, whatever that is. That's probably the simplest and most effective way. Matter of fact, that's how I got my first clearance, was through the Department of Defense. Now, one of the things about a security clearance is that every agency, defense as one example, civilian as another example, typically in those areas, they have different levels of clearances, and they may follow different processes. For example, the three-letter agencies will look at things differently than maybe defense in some areas. So just be aware there's no right or wrong answer, and when we consider clearances, agencies have their own little levels of what I call flexibility. Now, if you don't choose the military, the next option would be to go through a government contractor role. Now, that is where you look. For example, on the screen here, you can see that some companies will specify that they will sponsor an interim clearance. Now, to be able to do that, they have to have a demand, and they typically would want to hire you and keep you on the bench because they don't want to sponsor a clearance and have you not available in 6 months or a year. An interim clearance can still take 6 or 7 months. And this is, again, a process that the company, if they don't have to, they really don't want to do it. But if they have to, then they will. So these are going to be little things you have to look for. Now, a security clearance, of course, is going to take some time. And the reason is because they're going to need to investigate what? Your background, everything from financial to your criminal to your credit, to even who you know, to who you're married to where you went to school and how did you do in school, right? There's a lot of things, your character, that come into play. Now, when we consider getting a clearance, the other way to do it is to basically get a job with the federal government. That could be working at an agency. It could be working, from everything from OPM to Department of Defense to the IRS, whatever it is, right? So there's a number of different ways to get a clearance. Now, be aware that every agency is going to have their own clearance requirements per se, but they all typically follow a standard process with the Office of Personnel Management. You have to fill out a form called an SF-86. And there's been some changes to how that's done. It's all online, and there's a lot of new acronyms that I'm even still having a hard time keeping up. But with the workforce changes that occurred the last few years, the whole process is about the same, and it's probably taken longer, to be honest, from my understanding. So with that said, getting clearance can be a great deal, especially if you're willing to apply to the roles that say they'll sponsor a clearance, and as long as you don't have, like, for example, if you don't have any background issues such as having a felony or not paying your taxes for 10 years or, being just creepy and the neighbors tell them that, right? These are things that can come up, right? So just be aware that getting the clearance is something that may be worth your level of effort to be able to do, especially if you want to get that secure role to really mitigate issues down the road, especially if the economy changes. Being in tech is great, but one of the challenges with tech is that there's been a lot of layoffs, and a lot of people may not want to deal with that. But also, too, clearances in a lot of cases have paid more than what the tech sector has paid in some areas, especially if you have a higher level clearance. So these are things to consider as well. And you don't have to be in the D.C. area to get your clearance. You could be pretty much anywhere. For those that are looking to find out more about getting the clearance and the process and all the different levels of clearances, I have a blog post in the description. Feel free to check it out. Thanks for joining. Good luck on your job search. Have a great day.